Convincers and Influence, Part 3, Managing Reality. In the previous two parts of this video, I described the elements that make something convincing. It's time to take that a lot further. A more convincing placebo. A placebo is defined as a medicine or preparation which has no inherent, pertinent, pharmacologic activity, but which is effective only by virtue of the factor of suggestion attendant upon its administration. Placebos have been in use for a long time. Every new medicine must be tested against a placebo so that the effect of the medicine can be separated from the effect of receiving a treatment. The idea is that even if a group is receiving no pharmaceutical agent, the act of being convinced that they're receiving treatment can cause many to start getting better. Because this process relies on convincers, and the subjects in the clinical trial know that some of the medicine is placebo, curious things can happen. If a person receives the real medication, yet is convinced that they were given a placebo, this can diminish the effect of the real treatment. In any study with a placebo control, the only convincer the test group were receiving was the assurance of a doctor that a reasonable proportion of them were getting a real medicine. And in some cases, a lack of side effects would reveal who was getting the placebo. So the question arose, what would happen if the subject somehow got additional information suggesting that they were getting a real medicine? In short, what if the placebo was more convincing? The result was the active placebo, a substance that did not have any effect on the medical issue, but had another physiological effect noticeable to the subject. Kirsch and Saperstein created a storm when they published results which suggested that several popular antidepressant medicines were acting as active placebos, and several other studies have further supported this. If placebo surgery can also be shown to have a positive effect, how far is it possible to go in creating healing through managing convincers? Managing reality. There are several professions whose main process relies on the careful management of perceived reality through the careful use or bypassing of our normal convincers. Ask a stage magician what makes their effects possible, and you will often hear the phrase suspension of disbelief. A hypnotist may talk about bypassing the critical factor. A good storyteller might talk about creating a compelling reality. In each case, they're talking about essentially the same thing, creating a new reality without engaging our processes of evaluation, our convincers. When Orson Welles made his famous radio broadcast of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, it created mass panic. The broadcast was designed to seem like a series of news bulletins breaking into a normal radio program. The fake bulletins were delivered in a similar tone, pacing and phrasing to real news flashes. The effect was so convincing that many listeners really believed that an invasion from Mars was underway. Wells relied on his listeners' previous experience, news bulletins sound like that, to manage their perceptions, therefore this is a real news broadcast, and lead them to false conclusions, therefore the Martians are invading. Many of the distinctions I made earlier in this article worked together to convince those listeners. The radio news was a qualified source of trustworthy information. The fake newscaster's assertions began in a plausible way and gradually became more fantastic. The newscaster qualifies as an authority. Each fake news bulletin was consistent with the previous one. The material was delivered to maximize its emotional impact on the listener. and the fake newscaster leverage the qualities of the Here convincer channel through their use of urgent tone and pacing. With all of those elements stacked together, the panic that ensued as a result is hardly surprising. Wells created a compelling reality, and the public responded to that reality. Urban myths and friend of a friend stories also use many of the elements I've described in convincing people that their claims are true. They're delivered by a qualified and trusted source, a friend. The stories are plausible, even if they may be unlikely. They could happen. They contain significant examples, most of a strong emotional impact based on one or more of the 4 Fs. For example, the story of glass shards found in baby food is about both food and safety. Authority. Many urban myths cite an expert source, like a research study, a newspaper, or a leaked government document, as a means of adding authority to their claims. Consistent. You'll probably hear the same ones over and over again as they spread like wildfire. The strong emotional impact is also vital to the spread of information, as our brains are hardwired to share details of potential dangers. Viral marketing uses these same points of leverage to cause the rapid spread of information about products or services. Such publicity is often free. And when ideas become widespread, they appeal to those who have a convincer mode that needs a large number of examples, or evaluates over a long period of time. Or you could just shortcut their process by packaging assertions like, everyone is doing X, or 10,000 people can't be wrong, into a plausible new reality. To summarise, while the general public are now rightly sceptical about claims that begin with research has shown, or those that involve statistics, it's vital to be aware of your personal convincer channel and mode, and these common ways of bypassing. This article can't possibly describe the entire field of persuasion and influence. I've only scratched the surface, and hopefully provided some food for thought. I'm sure you'll agree that this is incredibly useful information that everyone should be aware of. If so, then pass it on. For more, visit us at www.resourcefulchange.co.uk and check out our range of training programs.